They were bred to look cute, but behind every flattened snout and bulging eyes lies a disturbing story, one of suffering disguised as charm. Have you ever wondered why a pug always looks like it's gasping for air? It's not an act, it's reality. A reality engineered by humans, all in the name of aesthetics for years. We were led to believe they were adorable, funny, perfect for apartments, but the truth is, what we call cuteness is actually the result of decades of irresponsible genetic manipulation. This video is not an attack on pugs. It's a cry, an outpouring, an invitation to look beyond appearances and confront what no one wants to show. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And it all begins with the question no one wants to ask. Where did this beloved aberration come from? Breed fact sheet name, Pug origin, China life expectancy, 12 to 15 years weight, 6 to 8 K8, up to 30 cm group, companion distinguishing characteristics, extremely flattened snout, large and prominent eyes, deep wrinkles, curled tail. Behind that, compact body and funny face, the pug hides an extremely modified body. Their noisy breathing, it's not charming, it's a collapse, their charismatic appearance. The result of mutations that prioritize aesthetics over well-being, created to be a living trinket. The pug has become a reflection of dangerous vanity. To understand how we got here, we need to look back long before Instagram. Because the origin of this breed is as old as our guilt. The pug was born over 2,000 years ago in ancient China, not as a hunter, nor as a guardian, but as a status symbol, bred to live in the palaces of the Han Dynasty. This dog was shaped to have no function beyond entertaining and pleasing. They were treated like royalty. They slept on silk quilts, received special food, and even Buddhist monks kept them as sacred companions in Tibetan temples. But over time, the pug crossed borders. In the 16th century, Dutch merchants brought them to Europe, where they quickly enchanted the nobility. Legend has it they saved the life of Prince William of Orange by alerting him to an attack of feet that secured their place in court. From there, it was a short leap until they became the darling of the aristocracy. Queen Victoria of England, she had several, Napoleon, him too. The pug ceased to be just a dog and became an accessory of power. But it was precisely this blind idolatry that lit the fuse of their physical deformation, because when a breed is born to be an ornament, it stops evolving and starts to be forcibly molded. How did an animal that can barely breathe today come to be treated like a living deity? The answer lies over 2,000 years ago in the heart of the East. The pug emerged in ancient China during the Han Dynasty, intentionally bred as a companion dog for the elite. It wasn't meant for hunting, protecting, or herding. It was, essentially, a symbol, a flesh and bone trinket, made to please the eyes of emperors. They didn't want a functional dog, they wanted a living ornament, silent and obedient. And the first pugs were different. Records show small dogs with slightly longer snouts, lively, but not exorbitantly bulging eyes. And without the excessive folds that define the breed today, the original pug, though decorative, was not the picture of fragility we know today. That would come later. From the palace, these dogs gained temples. Buddhist monks began to breed them in monasteries, attributing a certain spiritual value to them. A dog that did nothing, but whose presence brought peace, almost like a sacred breathing statue. Centuries later, Dutch merchants were enchanted by this exotic little dog and brought it to Europe. That's when the pug gained fame. Legend says it saved William of Orange's life by warning him of a night attack. And this feat, real or not, was enough to place it on the throne of royal dogs. In England, Queen Victoria fell in love with the breed. And where royalty goes, fashion follows. European aristocracy began to compete for rare specimens, seeking the most peculiar, larger eyes, flatter snouts, faces with more wrinkles. And so, artificial selection gained strength. The pug's function remained the same, to be seen, but now, to be seen as different, as special, as a dog that carries its nobility in its body. However, this obsession with aesthetics did not come without consequences. Over the centuries, breeders began to reinforce these extreme characteristics, not for health, but for vanity. The flatter the snout, the purer it was considered. The more bulging the eyes, the rarer. The more curled the tail, the better. And that's how the pug, already born to be functionally useless, began to bear the price of being desired in its body. It stopped being just a symbol of the elite and became a silent victim of human vanity. If there was any doubt that the pug was shaped to be a walking spectacle, the 20th century cleared them all. With the rise of cinema and pop culture, the pug found its definitive stage. Small, quirky, and with a funny appearance. It was everything Hollywood needed to create caricatured and memorable characters. It didn't take long for it to appear on screens, films, series, commercials. The pug became an icon. The explosion came with Men in Black 1997, when the little dog Frank, a talking, disguised alien pug, stole the show alongside Will Smith. The character was mocking, sarcastic, and comical, and the audience loved it. The industry did too. Demand soared. INFLUENCERS, celebrities and ordinary people rushed after the new thing. The pug became a style accessory. It was in famous people's bags at elite parties. In fashion editorials, it was no longer just a dog, it was a media product, and like any mass product, it suffered from irresponsible popularization. Opportunistic breeders appeared in droves. Lineages were crossed without criteria, simply to meet the explosive demand. The physical standard was distorted even further. Flatter, more compact, cuter, but at what cost? While the public laughed at its dangling tongue and constant snoring, the pug struggled to breathe. slept poorly, and suffered from heat crises, but that didn't matter. After all, it was cute enough not to worry about those things, right? During this peak of popularity, no one wanted to look at what was happening behind the cameras. Not at the gasping breaths, not at the increasingly common corrective surgeries. Fame didn't bring glory, it brought exploitation. And so, the pug ceased to be just a symbol of royalty, and became yet another trophy of modern human vanity. The pug went from imperial palaces to Hollywood studios, and from there to the sofas of modern families like a living toy. But fame doesn't protect anyone from the truth, and now, the pug faces what is perhaps its biggest battle: survival in the face of scientific, ethical, and veterinary criticism. The flood of popularity that exploded in the 2000s brought bitter consequences, as more and more pugs were produced to meet demand, without minimal care for genetics, health, or well-being. The problems that were once discreet became glaring, and no, it's not an exaggeration, it's a fact. Veterinarians around the world began to sound the alarm. The pug is among the breeds with the highest rate of chronic suffering. That's right, what appears to be a funny, wrinkled face with large eyes and a flattened snout is actually the portrait of a severe respiratory deformity called brachycephalic syndrome. But the problems don't stop there. The bulging eyes increase the risk of ulcers and eye injuries. The narrow nostrils make breathing difficult. The excess skin contributes to constant infections, and the compact body, with short legs and a broad chest, compromises mobility over the years. The result: a lifetime of snoring, choking, silent pain, all because of an aesthetic standard imposed by humans. It wasn't long before the debate went beyond the clinics. Animal welfare organizations began to pressure kennels, breeders, and even kennel clubs. The question was direct: to what extent is it ethical to perpetuate a breed that, as it stands, lives with severe physical limitations? And the answer divided the world. In countries like the Netherlands and Norway, the pug went from being a symbol of cuteness to a target of prohibitions. That's right, in 2022, Norway officially banned the breeding of pugs, considering it a violation of animal welfare laws. For Norwegians, continuing to breed dogs with congenital respiratory problems is equivalent to a form of abuse. Other countries, such as the UK, Germany, and Australia, continue with increasingly strict regulations. Veterinary associations warn the pug, as it is bred today, should no longer exist. On the other hand, breed advocates react. They claim that it is possible to reverse the situation with conscious breeding, genetic selection, and improvements in breeding standards. Some ethical breeders are already trying this, with pugs that have slightly longer snouts, less bulging eyes, and more functional breathing. But change is slow, and the market, driven by profits, vanity, and emotional demand, resists. The internet doesn't help either. Funny videos of pugs making noises, sleeping sitting up, or reacting cutely go viral easily. But what many people call charming, specialists call romanticized chronic suffering, and this criticism has gained strength today. There is a growing movement against the irresponsible promotion of the breed on social media. Influencers are called out when they display pugs, as if they were just stuffed animals with personality. And some veterinarians have begun to refuse corrective surgeries on dogs that were purchased from known unethical breeders. The scenario is tense. The pug, once a symbol of aristocracy and then a pop culture star, now finds itself in limbo, idolized by some, repudiated by others. But the undeniable fact is, science has already decided. The breed, as it stands, needs to be urgently rethought, not for aesthetics, not for fashion, but out of respect for life. And perhaps behind all this debate, there is something even more uncomfortable for us humans, confronting the fact that we were the ones who put the pug in this situation. We were the ones who shaped its anatomy to our liking, who ignored the signs of suffering, who bred, bought, promoted, and viralized, all in exchange for easy affection, likes, and a distorted idea of companionship. Now, the question is, will we have the courage to correct the error? Or will we silently watch as another breed slowly walks towards disappearance, or worse, towards an existence eternally imprisoned in a body that doesn't work? If you still think all this is an exaggeration, get ready, because in the next segment, we will open a chapter that many people prefer to ignore: the real care and most common diseases of the pug. And believe me, the list is longer than you imagine. You've probably heard someone say, a pug is like a baby that never grows up. But what many forget to mention is that this eternal baby requires almost hospital-level care throughout its life. And that's not an exaggeration. The list of common diseases in pugs is as extensive as it is worrying. And we're not talking about rare conditions, but structural problems that are part of the breed's very anatomy. The pug has been molded, generation after generation, to fit into a mold of artificial cuteness, the result: a fragile, unstable body, full of limitations. Let's start with the most striking: brachycephalic syndrome. This condition affects all flat-faced breeds, but in the pug, it borders on unbearable, practically closed nostrils, an overly elongated soft palate, a narrow trachea. Everything hinders the simple act of breathing. Just a more enthusiastic walk, a hot day, or a little excitement, and the pug is panting, choking, tongue out, and eyes bulging. What many people find cute, veterinarians classify as a life-threatening risk. By the way, let's talk about the eyes. The pug holds the title of one of the dogs most prone to eye diseases. Because they have large, exposed eyes, any bump, strong wind, or scratch can cause ulcers, ocular prolapse, or blindness. Yes, blindness. And it's not uncommon for pugs to develop dry eye or progressive retinal atrophy with age. Diseases that require constant eye drops and treatments, and the skin. That same skin full of wrinkles that so many people love to squeeze. A paradise for bacteria and fungi. Facial folds accumulate moisture, dirt, and food debris, favoring infections that cause itching, bad odor, and sores without rigorous hygiene. The pug suffers in silence, or rather, scratching itself until it bleeds. And there's more, orthopedic problems. The short legs and heavy body create an overload on the joints, making hip dysplasia, patellar luxation, and intervertebral disc. Disease common. Over time, many pugs have difficulty walking, climbing stairs, or simply getting up. Now, add to all that a predisposition to obesity. Pugs are greedy, very greedy. And their slow metabolism means that any extra gram weighs like a pound. An obese pug is even more vulnerable to respiratory syndrome, heart problems, diabetes, and a drastic reduction in quality of life. The cycle is vicious. The pug finds it difficult to exercise, breathes poorly, walks in pain, tires quickly. Therefore, it moves less. This makes it gain weight, and obesity only worsens all other symptoms. So yes, owning a pug means taking responsibility for daily monitoring and continuous care. Regular baths, cleaning of the folds, eye drops, medication, strict food control, frequent veterinary follow-ups, and even surgery, often more than one, to improve breathing or correct deformities. We are talking about a breed that, in many cases, is born with inherent suffering, not because nature wanted it that way, but because we decided that this appearance was desirable. And here's the crucial point. True love cannot be blind. Anyone who truly loves a pug needs to face reality head-on. It's not enough to pamper, dress them in clothes, or collect funny videos. Caring for a pug means being ready for a demanding, costly, and emotionally draining journey. Therefore, many veterinarians and animal protection organizations recommend if you want a pug, adopt, don't buy, give a new chance to a dog that already exists, that was born with its limitations, and that needs a conscious home. Buying a puppy from an irresponsible breeder only perpetuates the cycle of suffering. But perhaps the most important thing is to inform yourself, because many owners discover all this too late, after love has already been won and suffering is inevitable. And it is at this moment that frustration, fear, and guilt come. And the unanswerable question, why didn't anyone say this before? Well, now you know. Now, you've seen the other side of the coin, and the next segment goes beyond diagnoses. We're going to delve into what science still hasn't been able to fully explain about pugs. Because despite everything, there are still mysteries and genetic paradoxes that intrigue researchers worldwide. Get ready. The next chapter will reveal what makes the pug a challenge even for modern biology. Even with decades of genetic and veterinary studies, the pug continues to defy science. And that's not an exaggeration. This breed, artificially shaped by humans, carries enigmas that still have no definitive answers and continue to intrigue researchers worldwide. One of the biggest mysteries is how the pug continues to reproduce. Despite its numerous physical limitations, many pugs cannot have natural births. Their heads are too large in relation to the female's birth canal. Therefore, C-sections are common. But even with all this interference, the breed persists. It's almost as if the pug were a project that nature would have discarded, but which humans insist on keeping active by force. Another curious point is the pug's facial expression. Studies show that they have an unusual pattern of muscle movement in the face. This creates expressions that humans interpret as sadness, guilt, or tenderness. Only, surprise, these expressions don't necessarily have a connection to what the dog is feeling. They are an emotional illusion, a side effect of the compressed anatomy of the snout and protruding eyes. In other words, we think the pug is asking for a cuddle or apologizing, but it may just be trying to breathe better. And speaking of eyes, it's still not exactly known why pugs have a higher tolerance for ocular pain. Cases of ulcers, corneal lesions, and even ocular displacement do not initially cause the expected level of pain. Compared to other breeds, this delays diagnoses and worsens clinical pictures, but also raises questions about specific neurological changes in this type of dog. There is also an intriguing genetic paradox. The pug, even with high inbreeding and a limited genome, exhibits very distinct behavioral variations. Some are extremely active and playful, while others are apathetic. From puppyhood, scientists believe there may be epigenetic markers yet to be identified, which regulate mood and energy independently of external appearance, which is rare in such modified breeds. And finally, there is the most uncomfortable question of all. How long can the pug exist? Many researchers wonder if this breed, as we know it, has a viability limit. With the advance of mutations, there is a real risk of genetic collapse. That is, there may come a time when the puppies themselves do not survive without extreme human intervention. We are faced with an animal that, in many ways, should not exist, but insist on living. And perhaps that is precisely what makes it so fascinating and so controversial. But if science is still trying to understand the pug, the world already has its opinions. And in the next segment, we will expose a side that few dare to say out loud. The 10 reasons why someone simply doesn't like a pug. And yes, they exist. Many of them you've already seen here. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe your pug doesn't like you? And it's not just because they have that cute little face that they'll love you unconditionally. This little dog has its reasons, and not a few, for harboring a huge grudge against its owner. Let's list the 10 reasons why your pug might silently detest you, but with all the intensity only a flat-nosed dog can hold. 1. You turn them into a genetic Frankenstein. Your pug was born out of a human desire to create a cute pet, but you don't think twice about the consequences: difficulty breathing, eyes that are constantly injured, skin that accumulates folds, where dirt gets trapped, and all of this just so you can have a dog with an eternal baby face. If they could speak, they'd say, "Thanks, great, thanks for making me this way." 2. You ignore the signs of suffering. How many times have you overlooked that sneeze, that cough, that difficulty breathing? The pug suffers in silence because they don't know how to complain properly. But the truth is they expect you to be more attentive, and you fail miserably. 3. You think they're a toy. They're not, even though they're small. The pug is a living being with needs and limits, and you insist on treating them as an object of cuteness, sometimes even exaggerating in handling, without respecting when they want to be alone. For poor diet. Want to see your pug detest you. Feed them just anything, without care. They are prone to obesity and digestive problems, and your negligence only worsens the situation. They even try to complain with that sad look, but who understands? 5. Lack of exercise and stimulation. You leave them on the couch for hours without proper walks or playtime. The pug may seem lazy, but they need activity to maintain their mental and physical health. Prolonged idleness is torture for them and for the patience they have with you. 6. Ignoring skin and wrinkle care. Is it a lot of work? Yes, but not properly cleaning facial folds causes painful infections. Your pug won't thank you and might even hate you for it. 7. Heat exposure. Pugs have difficulty regulating their body temperature, and you sometimes don't understand this and leave them in hot environments or exposed to strong sun. Result: guaranteed suffering and accumulated anger. 8. Lack of emotional attention. Despite the stereotype of a clingy breed, the pug needs true affection, not just obligatory petting or for appearing on social media. They feel when they are just a status object. 9. Sleep interruption. Pugs sleep a lot and need rest for their body and mind. You, with constant noises, lights, or interruptions, might be wearing out your dog's patience, who might hate you for it. 10. You don't understand that the pug isn't just cuteness, they have personality. Did you think the pug would lick your hand forever? No way. If you don't respect their time and way, you'll end up with a dog that even you can't stand. Deep down, your pug isn't a toy. They can't choose their owners, and you have the responsibility to respect their limitations and needs. If you don't do that, get ready. The pug might look like an angel, but they won't think twice before giving you that silent, blatant paw. And the truth is, the pug doesn't like just anyone. They choose who deserves them, and if you're not on the list, the animal will make it very clear. You thought you knew your pug, right? That they were just that funny face, that cute little companion who just wants a lap and a treat. Well, the truth is much more complex and more unsettling than that. The pug may be small, but they carry a universe of mysteries and feelings that you, as an owner, aren't always prepared to understand. They live with physical and emotional limitations and have often been imposed by selfish human choices, and despite all of that, they still try to connect with you, even when you don't deserve it. If you've made it this far, you already know that caring for a pug isn't just about cuteness or viral photos on social media. It's about responsibility, respect, and, most importantly, empathy. The pug deserves much more than being just a pretty accessory in your life. They deserve to be a true partner, recognized in their essence. But what you might not yet know, and what not every owner wants to admit, is that, behind that funny face, the pug hides something that goes far beyond the eyes that seem to beg for help. Something few dare to investigate. Something that can completely change the way you see this breed, and perhaps even your relationship with them. Could your pug be keeping secrets you've never noticed? Secrets that, if revealed, can make you question everything you know about them? In the next video, we will unravel these hidden mysteries, those untold truths about pugs that will surprise even their most passionate admirers. Get ready for a journey that will stir your feelings, challenge your certainties, and who knows, even make you rethink how you care for your best friend, because, deep down, every pug has a story no one wants to tell, but one you need to hear. Stay tuned, because the truth is about to emerge.